There's a man standing outside a liquor store at 2 a.m. He's been clean for 9 months. His sponsor's number is in his phone. His therapist taught him breathing exercises. He knows every reason why he shouldn't walk through that door. And yet, something is pulling him forward with a force that feels older than his own memory. What if the craving isn't coming from him at all? By the end of this, you're going to see addiction through a lens that most treatment centers will never touch. We're going to talk about something ancient, something that cultures all over the world understood for thousands of years before we decided the mind was just chemicals and willpower. And once you see it, once it really lands in your chest, you'll understand why some cravings feel like they're speaking in a voice that isn't yours. Stay with me on this one. You know that moment when a craving hits and it doesn't feel like you anymore, when your own hands feel like they belong to someone else. When you can watch yourself walking toward the thing you swore you'd never touch again, and there's this strange distance, like you're a passenger in your own body. Addiction counselors call it dissociation. Neuroscientists point to the reptilian brain taking over. But there's something they're missing. Something that anyone who's ever sat in that parking lot, shaking, key in the ignition, knows in their bones. It doesn't feel like you because it isn't just you. For thousands of years, across every continent, every tradition, people understood that the living and the dead share the same space. The veil between worlds isn't some distant membrane, it's right here, gossamer thin, brushing against your shoulder in the grocery store, in the bar, in the quiet of your bedroom at 3 a.m. The dead don't vanish, they linger. And some of them, the ones who died with unfinished business, with addictions that outlived their bodies, they're still hungry. In Tibetan Buddhism, they're called pretas, hungry ghosts. Beings with needle-thin throats and swollen bellies, forever craving what they can never satisfy. In Mexican tradition, there are souls who wander because they died suddenly, violently, or in the grip of addiction, and they haven't realized they're dead yet. They're still looking for that next drink, that next hit, that next moment of relief that will never come. And when they brush against someone living, someone vulnerable, someone whose defenses are down, the craving bleeds through. You felt this. Maybe you didn't have words for it, but you felt it. The way a craving can arrive like weather, sudden, heavy, from nowhere. The way it can feel ancient, like it's been waiting for you. The way certain places seem to call to you, not with your voice, but with something else. A dive bar you've never been to before, but the moment you pass it, your chest tightens and your hands start to shake. That's not memory, that's haunting. But here's where it gets strange. Because it's not just the dead who wander. It's unfinished energy, unmetabolized pain. And addiction is one of the most powerful sources of unfinished energy there is. Think about what happens when someone dies in active addiction. They die mid-reach, mid-wanting. Their last thought was of the substance. Their last heartbeat was in service to the craving. And that energy, that desperate, clawing need, doesn't just evaporate. Energy doesn't vanish, it lingers, it pools. It attaches to places where the veil is thin. Liquor stores, bars, shooting galleries, dealers, apartments. And it attaches to people whose own energy is similar, people struggling with the same substance, the same wound. Carl Jung wrote about the collective unconscious, this vast ocean of shared human experience that we all swim in whether we know it or not. But he also wrote something less discussed. The living and the dead share the same world, and the dead have a powerful influence on the living. He understood that the psyche isn't sealed, that we're porous, that we pick up things that don't belong to us. Thoughts that aren't ours, desires that feel foreign. And sometimes, more often than we'd like to admit, we're carrying the unfinished cravings of those who came before us. This isn't superstition, this is survival information. Because if you don't know that a craving can come from outside you, if you think every urge is your own, then you'll keep blaming yourself for the pull. You'll think it's your weakness, your failure, your broken willpower, and you'll never understand why the craving can feel so much bigger than you. And this is the part nobody talks about, the reason certain bloodlines seem cursed by addiction. The reason it runs in families like a dark river, generation after generation. Yes, there's genetics. Yes, there's learned behavior. But there's also this: the dead don't let go easily, especially when their dying wish was for one more taste of the thing that killed them. In indigenous traditions across the Americas, They understood that ancestors can carry medicine or they can carry poison. And when an ancestor dies without healing, without release, without peace, their wound becomes a legacy. It haunts the family line. It presses against the ones who are most sensitive, most open, most like them. And it whispers, "This is how we numb. This is how we cope. This is how we survive. Drink, use, disappear." You might be carrying a craving that belonged to your grandfather, who died of cirrhosis before you were born. You might be fighting a ghost who wore your face 70 years ago. And the craving feels so personal because it is personal, but it didn't start with you. Filipino psychic surgeons talk about extracting spiritual parasites, entities that attach to people's energy fields and feed on their life force, especially through addiction. Shamans in the Amazon perform ceremonies to release earthbound spirits that cling to the living, driving them towards substances. Even Catholic exorcists, the ones who've seen the inside of real possession cases, will tell you quietly, many addictions have a spiritual component. Something else is in the room, something that wants to keep using the body as a vehicle. If this is landing for you, if you've never heard someone put it quite this way before, hit subscribe. We go this deep every single week. No ads, no fluff. Just the stuff that actually matters. Because there are people out there who need to hear this. People who've been told their whole lives that it's all in their head, that it's just brain chemistry, that they just need to try harder. And they need to know, you're not crazy, you're sensitive. And that's a different thing entirely. Now, back to what I was saying, because this next part is the one that changes things. Here's what neuroscience has discovered that matches perfectly with what mystics have known forever. Your brain doesn't distinguish well between thoughts that originate in you and thoughts that arrive from outside. When a thought appears in your consciousness, your brain treats it as yours. This is why intrusive thoughts feel so disturbing, because the brain accepts them as real, even when you know they're not what you actually want. Now at this, your energy field, what some traditions call the aura, is electromagnetic. It extends about 3 to 6 feet around your body. And when someone stands close to you, your fields overlap. This isn't mysticism, you can measure this with equipment. Heart coherence researchers have shown that one person's heartbeat can synchronize with another's when they're in close proximity. Emotions transfer, energy transfers, and if energy transfers between the living, why wouldn't it transfer from the dead? When someone dies, especially traumatically, especially in addiction, they leave an imprint, like a recording in the fabric of a place. Walk into certain rooms and you feel it immediately, the heaviness, the desperation, the danger. That's not your imagination, that's information. Your body is picking up a frequency that's still broadcasting. Dr. Bruce Lipton's work on epigenetics shows us that our cells respond to environmental signals, not just genetic programming. We're receivers. We're antennae. We pick up information from our surroundings constantly. And not all of that information is visible or measurable by conventional science yet. But anyone who's walked into a room right after a terrible argument can tell you the energy hasn't cleared. It's still there. And you feel it. So what happens when you walk into a place where someone died desperate, where dozens of people have drowned their pain, where the walls have absorbed years of self-destruction? You pick it up. And if you're already struggling, if your own defenses are down, if you're vulnerable, that energy finds a way in. It speaks in your voice, it moves your hands, it pulls you toward the thing it remembers. But here's what changes everything. Once you know the craving might not be yours, you have a choice. You can start talking to it, not as yourself, not as your weakness, but as something separate, something that's visiting. When that pull comes, that ancient, heavy, irresistible pull, you can stop and ask, is this mine? Does this belong to me, or am I picking something up? And sometimes, in that pause, in that question, the energy shifts. Because you've broken the spell, you've named it. And named things lose their power. This is why exorcists use names. Why in fairy tales, knowing the demon's true name gives you power over it. Why in recovery, we say, I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. Naming is the first act of separation, of sovereignty, of reclaiming your own house. In shamanic traditions, there's a practice called psychopomp work, helping lost souls cross over. Guiding the dead who are stuck, who are confused, who are still reaching for the thing that killed them. And here's what's beautiful. You can do this for the energy that visits you. You don't have to be a shaman. You don't need special training. You just need to recognize it, speak to it, and send it toward the light. When a craving hits, you can say it out loud or in your mind, I see you, I know. You're hurting, but this body isn't yours anymore. You don't belong here. Go toward the light. Go find peace. You're free now. And sometimes, that's enough. Sometimes the energy lifts. Sometimes the craving that felt like a tidal wave suddenly feels manageable. Because you've given it permission to leave. This isn't about fighting. It's not about white-knuckling through it. It's about understanding that you're not just battling yourself. You're navigating a world where the visible and invisible overlap. Where the living and the dead share the same streets, the same rooms, the same bodies when we're not paying attention. And when you understand that, when you really get it, you stop hating yourself for the pull. You stop thinking you're broken or weak or doomed. You start seeing yourself as someone moving through a haunted world with grace, with awareness, with the ability to say, not today, not in my body, not anymore. There's a practice in some Buddhist traditions where monks meditate in charnel grounds, places where bodies are left to decompose. They do this to confront death, yes, but also to learn discernment. To learn what's them and what's the environment. To build the spiritual immune system that lets them move through dark places without absorbing the darkness. You're doing that work right now. Every time you feel a craving and pause instead of react. Every time you ask, is this mine? Every time you protect your energy, clear your space, remember who you are, you're building that immunity. You're learning to walk through the world without becoming a vessel for everyone else's unfinished business. And here's the truth that will set you free. You are not obligated to carry what doesn't belong to you. Not your family's pain, not the ghost in the bar, not the imprint in the place where you used to use. You can set it down, you can send it away, you can reclaim your body as your own sacred space, and nothing, living or dead, gets in without your permission. You are the sovereign of your own soul. And the craving that feels like it's going to kill you if you don't feed it. It's just wine, just weather, just a visitor passing through. And visitors leave, they always do, if you don't invite them to stay. So the next time a craving hits you like a freight train, the next time you feel that pull that's bigger than reason, bigger than willpower, bigger than you, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, whose hunger is this, really? Because the answer might surprise you. And in that surprise, in that space, in that moment of recognition, you find your freedom. If this video found you at the right moment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been fighting alone, thinking they're crazy, thinking they're weak. Let them know you're not alone, and you're not fighting just yourself. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.